All right, we got a little screencast here on how to simplify radicals. Uh, Part of our Elder Skills Review packet, one of the things we get into is square roots. Most of us know, or at least have a decent idea, what our perfect squares are. 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, etc. So um, it's easy to take the square root, but what happens when the number is not a perfect square? What do we do then? Just like with fractions, you can simplify fractions, we can simplify square roots as well. So just some general guidelines here. Uh, 1, if you can take the square root of a number, do it. You see here in orange. If not, then you try to find a factor of that number that is a perfect square. So we're going to take a look at two different scenarios here. 1, what if my radical is a perfect square? So for example, if I have the square root of 25, my answer is 5. If I've got the square root of 121, my answer is 11. If you start seeing things in front of your square root symbol, for example, if I've got 4 and then my square root symbol in 36, all right, well, the 4 out in front just means you're multiplying that 4 by whatever the square root of 36 is. So in this case, we'd have 4 times the square root of 36 is 6, and we get 24. If I've got negative 3 times the square root of 81, and I've got negative 3 times the square root of 81 is 9, and so my answer is negative 27. So typically when you have a radical that is a perfect square, a square root that you can take evenly, then you're going to take that evenly, and um, if there's a number out in front, you're going to multiply it to that value. If I have something like this, the square root of 25 over 10, and the square root of 25 is 5. Put 5 over 10, I can reduce that to 1/2. So at that point, it's just a matter of simplifying using whatever operation you see there. If there's multiplication, go ahead and multiply. If you've got some division, divide if you can, or simply just reduce the fraction. So that's what's going to happen if you have a square root that works out evenly. What happens if I have a square root that's not a perfect square? Let's take, for example, you've got the square root of 12. 12 is not a perfect square. When we talk about simplifying square roots, we don't mean find a decimal. Um, we're saying, hey, let's find a way to kind of break this down and keep it as exact an answer as possible. So here, you want to find factors that are perfect squares of 12. And so once we figure out the factors of 12, oops, yeah, we'll be all set. So factors of 12, we know that we've got 2 and 6. Well, 2, I can't take the square root of 2 evenly. I cannot take the square root of 6 evenly. So those don't work real well for us. 1 and 12, not going to work real well. So our best bet is to go with 4 and 3. I can take the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. The 3 is not a perfect square, so I put that back in the box. And so my simplified answer is 2 times the square root of 3. So essentially, whatever you can take the square root of, that's what's coming out. Whatever you cannot take the square root of evenly, that's going back underneath your square root symbol. Let's look at another one. The square root of 18. We're all thinking, all right, factors of 18. 1 and 18, 3 and 6, 2 and 9. Well, 2 and 9 is probably my best bet because I can take the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3. I cannot take the square root of 2 evenly, so that goes back underneath my square root symbol. And so that's my simplified version of the square root of 18. It's 3 times the square root of 2. Let's try another one here. Let's go with Let's go with the square root of 32. The square root of 32, a lot of you guys will probably be like, oh, I know. That's 4 times 8. And I can take the square root of 4. You're right, you can. So you get 2, you put your 8 back underneath, except for one small problem. 8 also has a factor that's a perfect square, because 8 is 4 times 2. So again here, I can take the square root of 4, which is 2. But I've also got this 2 out in front. So I need to bring that down. I'm going to multiply those two values. So the 2 from before, the 2 I have now, end up giving me 4 times the square root of 2. An easier way possibly to go through this one. Other factors of 32. Well, you've got 2 times 16. I can take the square root of 16. That gives me 4. 2 is not a perfect square, so I put that back underneath my square root symbol. So I get the same answer that I had down here. I just get a lot faster. So if you're pretty good with your multiplication tables and your multiplication factors, simplifying square roots might not be too difficult for you. So one last thing here before we go. Let's take the same type of problem. Let's say we've got the square root of 24, but now we've got a number out in front. Let's call it a 3. So 24, factors of 24, that's a perfect square. Well, that's 4 and 6. And so I can take the square root of 4, which gives me 2. There's 3 on the outside. We need to keep it outside. We're going to multiply it to that 2 that we just brought out. The 6 is not a perfect square, and 6 does not have any factors that are perfect squares, so that goes back underneath our square root symbol. So we're going to multiply our 3 and our 2 together and get 6. We've got the square root of 6, and so that's our simplified version of our radical. So go back through, see if there's anything you still have questions on. Go back through the screencast and see what you can figure out again. If you have other questions, let me know in class, and we'll go over it and talk about it and help you out. Have a great day.